The morning I understood I was really homeless, I was scraping ice off the inside of my own windshield. Not the outside, the inside. My own breath had frozen to the glass overnight in a thin gray film. I was sitting in the driver's seat of a paid-off sedan in the far corner of a grocery store parking lot, and that little orange scraper was the only thing standing between me and quitting. Let me tell you something up front. I turned that freezing car into a home that stayed dry and warm through an entire winter, and I did the whole thing for less than $200. This is a true story. It is mine. Every single mistake in it cost me something real, and I remember what. Here is what I need you to stay for. Near the end, I am going to tell you about a discarded, ordinary object that costs about $12 a month to run, and it was the one thing that finally let me sleep through a below-freezing night without shaking. You do not need land. You do not need savings. You do not need one single person's permission. If you have a car and a stubborn streak, this next part was built for you. I keep coming back to that first frozen morning because of one small detail. I peeled a half-frozen water bottle off the dashboard and pressed it against my cheek, and the cold felt almost good, because it was the first thing I had felt in days that wasn't fear. That is the moment I stopped pretending. I wasn't a woman between apartments. I wasn't taking a break to travel and find myself. I was living in my car, and I had no plan for the night ahead. I want you to understand how ordinary my road here was, because it might look a lot like yours. I had a job. I had a lease. Then the rent on my one-bedroom went up by $300 in a single renewal, and my hours got cut in the same month. That was it. That was the whole disaster. No dramatic fall, no bad habit. Just math that stopped working. I sold the couch. I sold the bed. I told myself the car was temporary, and I believed it for about a week. The first 3 nights nearly broke me, and not for the reasons you would think. It wasn't the cold yet. It was the noise and the fear. Every time a car door slammed across the lot, I sat straight up. Every set of headlights sweeping across my windows felt like it was searching for me. I learned fast that a person trying to sleep in a car is not afraid of the dark. She is afraid of being seen. So the first rung I climbed had nothing to do with warmth. It was about becoming invisible, and it cost me almost nothing. I bought a package of black poster board from a dollar store, 4 sheets for $4, and I cut them to fit each window. During the day, they sat flat under my seat. At night, I wedged them into the window frames, and suddenly no light got in and no light got out. From the outside, my car looked like every other empty car in the lot. That small privacy changed everything, because for the first time, I slept more than an hour at a stretch. But sleeping meant breathing, and breathing all night in a sealed metal box created a problem I did not see coming. That frozen film on my windshield wasn't a fluke. It was condensation, and it turned out to be the quiet enemy that destroys most people trying to live in a vehicle. A single adult breathes out close to a liter of water every night just sleeping. In a closed car, all of that moisture has nowhere to go, so it lands on the coldest surfaces, the glass, the metal doors, the ceiling. I woke up to wet everything. My blanket was damp. The headliner above me dripped. And here is the part nobody warns you about. Wet is what actually kills you out there, long before the temperature does. A damp sleeping bag loses almost all its warmth. I was making myself colder every single night just by being alive inside that car. I did not know any of that at first. I thought I was doing something wrong, that I was too weak to handle a little cold. That shame kept me quiet for weeks. When you are living in a car, you already feel like you failed at the most basic human task, which is keeping a roof over your own head, so you don't ask questions, you don't want anyone to know. But I finally typed my problem into a phone at a library, and I found out I was not weak and I was not alone, not even close. Here is the number that stopped me cold in that library chair. On any given night in this country, government point-in-time counts estimate hundreds of thousands of people are homeless, and researchers who study it say women make up a huge and growing share by many estimates, close to 900,000 women without stable housing across a year. 900,000. Mothers, grandmothers, nurses and teachers and retail workers, women who did everything they were told to do, and a great many of them, like me, were hiding it inside a car that still looked perfectly normal from the street, showing up to work in the morning like nothing was wrong. That is when the quiet judgment I had been swallowing turned into something more useful, because I started noticing who profited from all of us staying ashamed and staying silent. The same month, my rent jumped $300. The company that owned my building reported record earnings. There is a whole machine that treats a home as a place to extract money from, not a place for a human to sleep. And it counts on you believing that your situation is your personal failure, so you will never look up and see how many of us are down here together. The day I stopped blaming myself was the day I started actually surviving. And that shift from shame into action is exactly what I tried to put into words in the books I wrote from the other side of this experience. First Shelter, Build Deeper, and Built from Nothing are the complete system I wish someone had handed me that first frozen morning. Every rung, every cheap fix, every map I had to draw myself in the dark. You can find all three linked in the description for $97 at shelterfromnothing.com. If you are in that car right now, or you love someone who might be soon, that is the place to go when this video ends. Now, let me take you back to the war I declared on the thing that was quietly destroying my shelter every single night. So I went to war with the condensation, because dry was the whole ball game. The first thing I tried was free. I cracked 2 windows, just half an inch each, on opposite sides of the car, to let the moist air escape. That alone cut the dripping by more than half. Then I spent about $6 on 2 tubs of a moisture absorber, the kind of calcium chloride crystals sold in hardware stores to keep closets and basements dry. I set one on the dashboard and one on the back floor, and by morning there was water pooled in the catch trays that used to be on my windows and my blanket. It felt like a small miracle. For $6, I had pulled the wet out of my own bedroom. But dry air can still be freezing air, and now the real cold was coming. By late November, the nights were dropping into the 20s, and cracking those windows for airflow meant I was letting cold pour straight in. I was caught between 2 enemies: seal it up and drown in my own breath, or vent it and freeze. I lay there some nights doing the math on how many blankets I owned versus how many degrees I was losing, and it never came out in my favor. I need you to hear how close I came to just driving to a motel I could not afford and blowing the last of my money on one warm night. That is exactly the trap. One desperate warm night, and then nothing left. Instead, I learned about insulation, and I learned it the cheap way. Everybody online talks about a shiny, reflective bubble insulation, a foil material sold in rolls. The name brand version is not cheap, but I found a generic reflective foil insulation at a home improvement store, a big roll for around $25, and it was enough to do my entire car twice over. I cut it to the exact shape of every window, and this time I did not just wedge it in loose. I pressed the foil side inward, toward me, so it bounced my own body heat back instead of letting it escape through the glass. Glass is where you bleed heat fastest. Covering those windows with reflective panels was like closing the doors on a house that had been standing wide open all winter. The difference the first night was something I will never forget. I woke up and my nose was not numb. That was it. That was the whole victory. My nose was not numb, and I actually cried a little, because such a small thing felt enormous. Then I did the floor. And this is where I want to slow down, because this next part is for the person watching who is sure none of this could ever be them. Maybe you are thinking you are not handy. Maybe you are thinking you have no money at all, not even $25, and no tools and no idea where to start. I need you to hear me, because I was exactly that person, sitting in a cold car, convinced that people who figure this stuff out are somehow smarter or tougher than me. They are not. I promise you they are not. So, let me hand you the single easiest, cheapest thing I did, the thing you could start this week with nothing: moving blankets. The thick, quilted gray pads that moving companies use to wrap furniture. Here is the secret about them. Moving companies and truck rental places often have piles of them that get torn or stained and pulled from service, and many will give them away or sell them for almost nothing if you just walk in and ask kindly. I got 4 of them for free from a rental counter simply because I asked, and I have seen them at thrift stores for $2 or $3 each. I layered 2 of them flat across the entire floor of my car, because cold comes up through the metal floor and steals the heat right out of your body while you sleep. Then I hung one across the back of the front seats like a curtain, sealing off just the back where I slept into a small pocket the size of a closet. A smaller space is a warmer space. Your body can actually heat a space that tiny. That is it. That is the whole starter move. Ask for free moving blankets. Put them under you and around you, and shrink your world down to the smallest box you can stand. No tools, no skills. No money required, or close to none. If you do only that one thing, you will be warmer tonight than you were last night. I built everything else on top of that foundation, one rung at a time, and you can too. But warmth was only half of staying human. The other half was staying clean, and that nearly beat me. You do not know how much dignity lives in a hot shower until you cannot get one. After about a week without a real wash, I could feel people at work start to keep their distance. Nobody said anything. They didn't have to. I saw it in the half step back they took when I got close. And that look, that polite, pitying, careful distance hurt worse than the cold ever did. It told me I was becoming something people wanted to avoid, and I was terrified I could not stop it. So here is what I found, and it saved me. A basic gym membership. There is a well-known chain of gyms that runs about $10 to $15 a month for the basic plan, and it gets you into locations all over the country with clean, private showers, hot water, sinks, and mirrors. For the price of 2 fast food meals, I bought back my dignity. I showered every morning before work. I looked like a person who had a home, because as far as anyone knew, I did. That membership was worth 10 times what it cost, and I have talked to dozens of other women living in vehicles who all quietly figured out the same trick. We were all showering in the same gyms, nodding at each other in the mirror, none of us saying the thing we both knew. For a bathroom, I kept it simple and clean, and I want to be honest about it because everyone wonders and nobody explains it. A 5-gallon bucket, a snap-on toilet seat lid that cost about $8, and I lined it with a bag and a scoop of the cheapest clumping cat litter, which locks away odor completely, sealed lid on when not in use. It sounds rough. It was not glamorous. But it was clean, it did not smell, and it meant I never had to stumble around a dark parking lot at 3 in the morning looking for a gas station that was probably locked anyway. Small systems, each one a rung. But even warm, dry, and clean, I still had the biggest problem of all, and it followed me every single night. Where do you legally sleep? This is the part that grinds people down. In a lot of cities, it is illegal to sleep in your vehicle, and the fines are cruel, sometimes $100 or more. A fine aimed squarely at people whose entire problem is that they do not have $100. Think about how backward that is. You lose your home, and the punishment is to take money you don't have, which makes it even harder to get a home. I got that knock on my window twice. A flashlight in my face, a voice telling me I couldn't stay. Both times I drove off shaking, with no idea where to go, burning gas I couldn't spare just to keep moving. I want you to feel how exhausting that is, because it is the hidden weight nobody sees. It is not one bad night. It is the fact that you can never, ever fully rest, because the ground under you might be pulled away at any hour. Then I found out about something that most people have never heard of, and it changed my whole map: safe parking programs. In more and more cities now, churches, nonprofits, and even some local governments run lots where people living in their vehicles can park overnight legally, safely, with a bathroom nearby and sometimes a security guard, all for free. They started in a few places on the West Coast and have spread across the country. I found one run out of a church parking lot about 15 minutes from my work. The first night I parked there and did not have to watch the mirrors, I slept 9 hours straight. 9 hours. I had forgotten what my own body felt like rested. If you are out there right now, search those 2 words for your area safe parking. Call a local church and just ask. Ask a public library. The people who run these programs are not there to judge you. They exist precisely because so many working people ended up exactly where I was. By deep winter, I had a dry car, an insulated car, a clean body, and a legal place to sleep, and I was still cold. Not dangerous cold anymore, but the kind of cold that never fully leaves your bones, the kind where you sleep in your coat and your hat and 2 pairs of socks and still wake up stiff. I had climbed so many rungs, and I could not figure out how to climb this last one without doing something dangerous. Because here is the trap so many desperate people fall into, and it kills them. When you are that cold, you start thinking about heat sources. A propane heater, a candle setup. There is a popular trick online with a clay flower pot upside down over tea light candles, and people swear it heats a small space. I want to say this as plainly as I can because I almost did it myself. Any open flame or any fuel-burning heater in a sealed vehicle produces carbon monoxide, and carbon monoxide is invisible, has no smell, and kills you in your sleep without ever waking you up. People die every winter doing exactly this. I stared at that flower pot idea for a long time on a very cold night, and something told me no. Thank God I listened. So here is the secret I promised you at the very beginning. The $12 a month object that finally let me sleep warm. And it is so simple, you are going to be a little angry nobody told you sooner. Stop trying to heat the air, heat the person. That is the entire secret, and once I understood it, everything got easier and cheaper and safer all at once. Trying to warm the air inside a car is a fool's errand. The air leaks out, it takes enormous energy, and it fills with moisture and danger. But you do not actually need warm air, you need a warm body. And the object that does that safely, for pennies, is a 12-volt electric heated blanket, the kind made for road trips that plugs straight into the cigarette lighter socket of your car. I found mine used for about $15, and brand new they run around 25 to 30. Here's the number that changes everything. A little space heater pulls 1500 watts and would drain any battery in minutes and cost a fortune. A 12-volt heated blanket draws around 40 to 55 watts. That is less power than an old light bulb. Wrapped around my body, under my regular blankets, it warmed the one thing that actually mattered me instead of trying to warm a whole box of leaking air. I ran it off a small portable power station I built up to over that winter, and the electricity cost to keep myself warm all night came out to roughly $12 a month. $12. After a winter of shaking and stuffing my clothes with anything I could find, the answer was a discarded road trip blanket that sips power like a nightlight. The first night I used it, I did something I had not done in months. I took off my coat to sleep. I slept in a t-shirt under those blankets with that gentle warmth against my back, and I woke up in the morning warm all the way through, dry, safe, and legal in that church lot with the sun coming up. I lay there and I did not want to move, not because I was cold, but because for the first time since the rent went up, I felt like I had a home. Not a car, a home. A place I had built with my own two hands, out of poster board and foil and free blankets, and a $15 heated pad for under $200 all in. I lived in that car through the whole winter and into the spring, and I saved almost every dollar I would have burned on rent. 9 months later, I had enough for a deposit in first month on a small place with a real door that locked. I am telling you this from an apartment now, but I kept every one of those supplies boxed up in a closet because I will never again believe that a roof is something that can't be taken from me. What can't be taken from me is knowing exactly how to survive without one. Here is what I most want you to walk away with. You are not weak because the math stopped working for you. You did not fail. The system that doubled rents and cut hours and then fines people for sleeping in their own cars, that is the thing that failed, not you. And the very same resourcefulness that got you into survival mode is the thing that will get you out. Every woman I met out there was one of the most capable people I have ever known. We were just underestimated by everyone, including ourselves. If you have felt that half step back from people, that polite pity, that quiet judgment for being one bad month from disaster, then you are exactly the kind of person this was made for. The kind who refuses to be written off. The kind who looks at a cold, empty car and sees the beginnings of a home. That is not desperation. That is genius under pressure, and you have it in you whether you have ever needed it yet or not. So tell me one thing. Of everything I lived through, which piece surprised you most? The free moving blankets from the rental counter, the safe parking lots hiding in church parking lots, or that 12-volt heated blanket that costs $12 a month to keep a person alive? Drop it in the comments and tell me where you are watching from, and tell me the first thing you would build if you had to start tomorrow. I read every single one because the people who find this video are my people, and I want to know you are out there. And if any part of this reached you, stay with me. This channel is a place for people rebuilding a home and their dignity out of almost nothing, together, without shame and without permission. Subscribe and stand with the rest of us who refuse to disappear. Because the next story I am going to tell you is about a woman who turned an abandoned camper somebody left to rot in a field into a warm, dry home for $400, and the one rusted part everyone told her to throw away turned out to be the very thing that saved her. You are going to want to be here for that one. Until then, remember this. The morning I scraped ice off the inside of my own windshield, I thought my life was over. It was only beginning. And whatever cold corner you are sitting in tonight, yours can begin too, one rung, then the next. I will be right here waiting for you at the top. I still remember peeling that frozen bottle off the dash. If this story stayed with you, come sit closer with me inside the shelter builders where I walk you through the full winter car warming system, part by part, right where this video left off. Ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers you myself. You won't be alone here. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen. Cancel anytime. One click. Now let me show you something that gives real hope. In the next video, I helped a struggling mother build a safe little home on wheels for just $500. You'll see exactly how it changed her life. It's starting right here.